and welcome to Dine and Dash, virtual lunch series, brought to you by uGO and University Circle Incorporated. My name is Annie Pease, and I'm the Director of Transportation at UCI. The Dine and Dash lunch series will bring you a 45-minute virtual session on sustainable transportation topics. We're holding these sessions once a month through the month of August. For those new to uGO, uGO is all about sustainable transportation. We have a website called ugointhecircle.com. Those are the letters uGO in the circle.com with information you need about getting to and around University Circle on all modes of transportation. During non-pandemic times, we host confident urban cycling classes, bike to work day events, shared mobility demonstrations in partnership with anchor institutions and community partners here in University Circle. And UCI also coordinates with anchor institutions on sustainable transportation initiatives, services, and policies across the district. uGO also issues a monthly e-newsletter to keep people in the loop on local transportation projects, transportation service changes, upcoming events like public meetings, and transportation resources available. Our Dine and Dash series dives into different modes of sustainable transportation available in University Circle and Northeast Ohio. Each session features a professional with expertise in that topic area. Our format are short presentations by our guest expert speakers, followed by a moderated Q&A with those in live attendance so that you can ask the presenters questions. I'm very excited about today's session, and I'm grateful for our speakers who are here from the Greater Regional Transit Authority to talk to us. Today we're talking about public transit. We hear from many people that they're interested in taking public transit, but have some concerns about things like safety, nights and weekend hours, the frequency of transit, the cost, and probably most importantly, whether there's a train or a bus that goes from where someone lives to where they work. Unlike many job hubs across Northeast Ohio, University Circle is quite a transit-rich area. We have 3 Red Line rail stops, BRT, it's just an acronym for Bus Rapid Transit that we know here locally as the Health Line. We have paratransit service and a number of bus routes serving University Circle. Today's session will explore the resources that RTA, our public transit agency, has for both new and seasoned riders. We'll also hear about upcoming changes to those bus routes here in University Circle, and those changes are coming up next month, so good timing. Before we get started with today's session, and I will introduce our speakers in just a moment, we have a raffle drawing. At each Dine and Dash session, we are raffling off a $20 gift card to an uptown restaurant here in University Circle. You get to choose which one, plus a $20 scooter credit. So drum roll, please, for our live raffle drawing here. I am very excited to announce that David Boss is our raffle winner today. Mr. Boss, congratulations. We will be in touch by email to find out which restaurant you'd like your gift card to, as well as information about your voucher for your $20 worth of scooter riding credits. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our first speaker from RTA. Our first speaker is Jim Frick. He is the Director of Sales at RTA, and he is going to talk about transit resources available to new and seasoned riders. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, how you doing? Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. Today, what we'll do, and we'll do this in a very quick way, and we'll give you a quick overview of how to pay, how to plan your trip, and an opportunity for you to trial ride if you've never ridden before to find out if transit's right for you. The first thing is our app. It's RTA CLE. You can get this on either the Apple App Store or actually at Google Play. And it's very, very easy to use. The features that it includes, you can select your ticket and your payment. You can store and manage your tickets. You can look up your riding history. You can save and change your credit card info. You can update your profile, your name, your phone number, your email address. You can also see or view the eligibility requirements and have receipts emailed to you. You can activate your ticket to ride and then simply scan or show your ticket to the operator. It's so very, very easy to use. As I mentioned, it's RTA CLE, and you get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. This app, it also allows you to plan your route, but we suggest the Transit app, which I'll get into next. Transit app is much more comprehensive. With the Transit app, you can also get this at your Apple App Store or Google Play again. And it's easy and so much more comprehensive, as I mentioned, than the RTA CLE app. With this particular app, the features include real-time bus and train arrivals and multimodal trip directions and options. What I really like about it is that the app shows basically your walking time to your entry stop, sometimes up to 3 different routes that it'll show you. So you have a lot of options, and also including within those options are the option if you drive to a stop, or if you use Lyft to a stop, or even if you exclusively use Lyft to get to your destination. So there's no biased picture here of just using public transportation. It shows a lot of different ways to connect. I think you'll find that extremely important. The last thing, of course, is trial riding. You've got to kick the tires, of course, to see whether it's right for you. And this Ready to Ride program, I think we've had around for maybe 10 years now. And our marketing director says that we convert about 1 out of every 3 who actually tries it. So that's a good thing. What you can do with this is you can enroll online by request. We'll have you fill out a commuter questionnaire, which gives us the specifics of your daily trip. And in turn, we'll prepare a customized trip plan for you, actually very similar to what you would find in the Transit app. We'll give you free passes to use to trial ride, and then we'll connect you with, which I think is important, a personal transit assistant to answer any and all questions and for you to share your experience with. Now, you might wonder, what does a personal transit assistant look like? Looks like me, except without a cigar, if you take a look at the slide in front of you. And we have probably about 4 or 5 people within our marketing department that are signed up to be personal transit assistants. Now, the last thing you'll see is the guaranteed ride home. And really what this is, it's not part of trial riding, but what it is, it's an incentive. Let's say you do trial ride and you like it. You say, hey, this is for me. This is what I want to do. Well, then we suggest that you go to your HR department or whoever is in charge of your benefits and sign up for your pre-tax transit program. Or if you don't have one, what you can do is call on us, call me, and I'll make a call there and introduce to them our pre-tax commuter advantage program. And if at that time they sign you up for their pre-tax, or we get our pre-tax program installed there, you'll get the guaranteed ride home. And basically what it is, it's a safety net. If you have a midday emergency, if you have to stay late, the bus or train isn't going to cut it, we'll actually let you take a cab, Uber, or Lyft, reimburse you up to a $35 cab fare, pay you back within usually 10 working days, and let you use that up to 4 times a calendar year. So all these things are really at your fingertips to use. And I think the most important thing is, before we get into the next part of the program, is all these sleeve right into the fact that with our new system, We have greater connections, greater connectivity. We have greater frequency. And because of that, we have greater service. And greater service to not just Greater Cleveland, but also to the UCI area. And that's it in a nutshell.
Great. Jim, thank you very much for that presentation. Lots of good information in there. For those in attendance, any questions you have about what our speakers are presenting or transit and University Circle more broadly, please type those into the Q&A box accessible from the bottom of your screen. Our presenters are taking those questions and we will address as many as we can in our moderated Q&A session right after our next presenter. So up next, we have Joel Freilich from RTA. Joel is RTA's Director of Service Management, and he will be talking about the specific changes coming with RTA's Next Gen project. Joel, thank you very much for joining us.
So good afternoon, and thank you, Annie, for inviting us to talk to you today. I'm Joel Freilich, Director of Service Management. Love to talk to you about the Next Gen RTA system that rolls out in June. This Next Gen system has been a long time in coming, and many of you may have helped us to develop the Next Gen system because we, over the past 2.5 years, have been engaging with the community to understand the community's desires and priorities for the transit system. Throughout 2019, we worked with the staff and local stakeholders and a well-known national consultant called Jarrett Walker and Associates on our system redesign study, which is one of 5 pillar studies supporting the RTA strategic plan. The community asked us to redesign and modernize the system to fit current travel patterns better and to better conform to the community's top priorities for public transit in our region. Through this public engagement process, the community asked us to make bus service more frequent, but at the same time, to continue serving all the communities that we currently serve. So we did that process through 2019. Then we paused a little bit for COVID-19 effects. We re-engaged with the community virtually in late 2020, and now we're leading up to our kickoff on June 13th of this year. Let's focus the next few slides on University Circle in particular, rather than the entire improvement countywide. So one very important route serving University Circle is the number 10 bus route that serves East 105th Street. That route will have improved frequency with Next Gen RTA, but also it will have improved reach. It will be extended. It'll serve all of its current stops up to St. Clair, but then it will extend to the northeast to serve St. Clair Avenue, East 140th Street, and Lakeshore Boulevard, all the way into Lake County at the Shoregate Shopping Center. This means we're taking now, all of a sudden, people in northeastern neighborhoods of the city of Cleveland, as well as in the city of Euclid, will be able to get on a bus right near their home and hop off at the VA hospital or at the Cleveland Clinic, or transfer at Euclid to the Health Line, just to name a few examples. In addition, many workers who come to work in the University Circle area, they live in all directions, but one I want to focus on particularly, some live on East 116th Street, which lies to the south of University Circle. And there is a bus on 116th Street today, but it travels as far north only as the Cedar University Station before turning west. In the future, under Next Gen RTA, all the trips on 116th Street will continue to serve the station, but then they will extend up Murray Hill and Adelbert to Euclid Avenue, turn left and go to 93rd in Euclid at the Cleveland Clinic, providing better and closer up access to many University Circle destinations than happens today. And moreover, that 116th Street service will operate 7 days a week instead of today's 5. Other improvements, many people come to University Circle from the Cedar Road corridor to the east, or from the Mayfield Road corridor to the east, or from the Payne and Huff Avenue corridor to the west, or from Quincy Avenue to the west. And from all of those 4 large areas, there will be improved access to University Circle. It'll be more convenient to get to University Circle, mainly because of improved frequency. Also because we will merge together the number 11 bus on Quincy Avenue that serves, among other things, St. Vincent Hospital and Tri-C Metro Campus. We'll merge that number 11 together with the number 32 on Cedar. So anything coming down Cedar will continue as it does today to serve the University Circle Cedar Station and to serve the corner of 107th Street or Stokes Boulevard in Euclid, but it'll still continue to serve 105th and in Euclid, as well as Carnegie in Euclid, and then it will continue west on Quincy as a single route, which will be named the number 11. So if you use the 32 today, you should expect all your stops to continue to survive on Cedar Road, but they will all be relabeled as 11. A similar merger will happen with Route 9 and 38. 9 on Mayfield with 38 on Payne, Superior, Huff, Lexington. All these will be merged. So the new route will run on East 105th Street between Euclid Avenue and Mount Sinai Drive. And this new route, which will be dubbed the 9, will operate on Euclid and Mayfield instead of operating on Ford Drive and East Boulevard. So once Next Gen is in place, if you see a bus on Ford Drive or East Boulevard, it will likely be a CircleLink bus. On the broad scale, we are implementing the community's desire to operate service more frequently. The map in front of you right now shows coded by color by frequency. It's color coded by frequency, the currently operating RTA service on weekdays in the middle of the day between the rush hours. Red signifies service every 15 minutes, and today is found only on Euclid Avenue, the red line rapid, the blue and green line rapid as far as Shaker Square, West 25th Street, and streets served by the number 15 Union Harvard. In the middle of the day on weekdays today, those are the only services that operate every 15 minutes and are shown in a red color. A couple of additional routes are shown in purple for 20 minutes. There are some routes shown in blue for 30 minutes. Light green indicates service of 40 to 45 minutes, which we are trying to eliminate and make most of them more frequent. And gray signifies hourly service. Now, you compare that image to the image that comes on your screen next to the Next Gen system, now shown on your screen, and all of a sudden you're seeing a lot more red lines on the screen indicating 15-minute service than you saw before. Some examples of streets that are going to upgrade to 15-minute service all day long under the Next Gen system include East 105th Street, Superior Avenue, St. Clair Avenue, Kinsman Avenue, Lorraine Avenue, and Detroit Avenue. And moreover, some of those routes that I named are going to have extended service in terms of their geographical reach. Today's system is pretty good in terms of University Circle, but not terribly frequent. It's good in terms of connectivity in that there are quite a few places you can go to from University Circle without transferring. In fact, University Circle is well positioned in that regard, with many places that you can go to without transferring. Moreover, today, every single route except one connects with a route serving University Circle. So except one, you can go to any route in the entire RTA system from a route that serves University Circle. Next gen, that even gets a little better because the exception goes away, and under the next gen system, if the bus from University Circle doesn't go all the way to your neighborhood in Cuyahoga County, it probably connects you to a route to your neighborhood. So those are the general improvements, and be very happy to take any questions.
Great. Joel, thank you so much for that very detailed and informative presentation on the upcoming changes in University Circle. Beyond our Q&A here with our presenters, if you or others have questions about RTA service, anything that Jim or Joel have presented today, RTA's answer line, that number is available. And then I will also say there's a lot of information on these next gen routes. You can download route-specific maps, upcoming timetables, the current timetables. You can look at your route side by side. All of that information is available on RTA's website on the Next Gen project page. So check out these resources, don't miss these. In the remaining time that we have left, we have about just over 20 minutes, which is a great amount of time. We have the opportunity to dive into Q&A with both presenters. So Jim and Joel, if you could join me on the screen here. I'll start taking questions through the box. Again, if you have questions ongoing, please do type those into the Q&A box. We have several coming in. And then if your question needs clarified, don't hesitate to write that into the box as well. So let's kick this off. Joel, this one's for you. How frequently does RTA change its bus routes?
Whoa, I'm getting a little echo here. Maybe we'll have to mute when we're not talking. So about four times a year, we make adjustments, but adjustments are normally very small. This June 13th adjustment is very large compared with a normal adjustment.
Thank you. So the scale of next gen is different from the smaller changes that RTA makes more frequently.
True.
Excellent. Does RTA offer real-time location tracking for buses and trains?
The answer to that is yes, we do. It's pretty popular, and I believe it's on one of the two apps that Jim Frick referenced.
It's on the transit app that we explained a little bit earlier.
Got it. So when someone goes into the transit app, they would be able to track the location of their bus or their train in real time.
Yes, exactly.
Generally, yes. There is something else that can be said, if I'm correctly up to date on that. If there is an occasion where the real time of information is not available, it will tell you the next scheduled time, and there is an icon on there to tell you whether the number you see on your screen is a scheduled or a real time.
Got it. That's a very helpful feature from someone who takes transit regularly. I'm very familiar with the ins and outs on the tracking apps, and it helps to know if the time you're looking at is actually a GPS tracker on the bus or train you're waiting for, or if it's the timetable schedule. Sometimes transit agencies only have the scheduled timetable. Sometimes maybe in smaller instances, they just have the location tracking of a vehicle moving around. And it's nice that those two elements of the real-time information can complement each other through the transit app. Thanks. So any clarification on that question, feel free to type us into that question into the Q&A box here. Another question, this one's for Joel. You talked about this a little bit, but could you clarify, does the number 9 go on to Euclid Avenue starting June 13th?
So the number 9, June 13th, if we imagine it starting from Hillcrest Hospital, it's just like today, comes from Mayfield and Som Center Road all the way down Mayfield Road into Little Italy, exactly as today. No changes planned in that area. It'll turn left on Euclid. No changes planned there. It'll continue to East 105th Street and Euclid. And at that point, there is a difference. So if at that point, instead of continuing a few more blocks, it will turn right on East 105th Street and then left on Mount Sinai Drive. And at that corner of East 105th and Mount Sinai Drive, that's where people will get off if they're going to the VA hospital and they're on the number 9 bus. From there, it will continue west on Mount Sinai Drive, Huff Avenue, Lexington Avenue, Payne Avenue, and Superior. So it will continue, it'll give people a third way to get downtown on top of the 2 that they already have.
Thank you, Joel. You mentioned the VA, Joel, and I know we have several folks in the VA on the line today. Currently, the 38 bus has stops very close to the VA Medical Center on East Boulevard. And the question is, what does so with the elimination of a route on East Boulevard and Ford, what perk does someone from the VA have for using RTA's bus system with the next gen changes? What benefits are they getting when currently they have a bus stop just a stone's throw from the VA Medical Center? What does that difference look like after June 13th?
So there are pros and cons. It is true that we won't be having any RTA bus stop at the corner of 108th Street and East Boulevard. And that, for some people, is a loss because that is so incredibly close to the facility itself. The limitation on that benefit that's going away of that bus is that it only runs once per hour. And so if you get finished with your job or finished being served by the medical practitioners there, and you walk out, it may be quite a while before the next bus is scheduled. So following the direction of the community said, we're not willing, we need more frequency on our better used bus routes on our main streets. You've got to give us more frequency, said the community. And then we asked the community, what are you willing to sacrifice to get that frequency? And the community was very clear. We're not willing to say you can no longer ever go to Strongsville anymore on RTA. We're not willing to cut out communities that are more distant and say you just can't go to those more distant places anymore. But we are willing to say we're willing to walk a little further to get better service. So we implemented that direction in many, many different places within the RTA system. And this is just one place where we implemented it. So that stop will not be served anymore, but some of the benefits are many people come to the VA hospital from the Mayfield Road corridor, and they'll be able to stay on that Mayfield Road bus until they're just a block away from the VA. Another thing is that many people access that VA facility from the East 105th Street bus. The East 105th Street bus will become more frequent, and actually it'll be running every 15 minutes, which is a much more convenient kind of time. So when you get done with your appointment, now you'll have to walk over to East 105th Street, which actually, depending on which door you walk out of the facility, is not at all far. So if you walk out of the door of the facility nearest 105th Street and you walk over to 105th Street, now you've got a frequent bus which goes to many Cleveland neighborhoods. It will go to additional Northeast Cleveland neighborhoods. It will go to additional neighborhoods in Euclid. And if you're just using that 105th Street bus to transfer to the Red Line or to the Health Line, again, you'll have a very quick wait on 105th Street, go a few blocks and get off at the Health Line, and that's frequent also. Or maybe you'll go north on 105th Street and find that the Superior bus you're trying to get to or the St. Clair bus you're trying to get to, those are all more frequent. So with every bus route that's being retained is becoming more frequent. So that's the trade-off.
Thank you. Question for either one of you. Will there be a fare increase with the next gen changes?
No, in fact, the board is not in any mood to increase fares. The Board of Trustees actually lowered fares through the reduction of the all-day pass just last October. And in that same board resolution taken last October, the RTA canceled a planned future fare increase that the board had postponed a few times and then decided, let's not just postpone it, let's just take it off the books.
Thank you, Joel. Is there any direct transit service between Shaker and University Circle?
So the most direct path, I live in Shaker and I can walk to the number 48 in Shaker Square, and that provides a direct access to University Circle. Other people in Shaker Heights will use, let's say, the green and the blue line and transfer at Shaker Square to an improved 48, or depending on what their transit app tells them is the most convenient thing to do right at this moment, the transit app may say, well, given where you are right now and where in University Circle you want to go, you actually should hop off at the newly renovated East 116th Street St. Luke's station, which is newly renovated, and hop on the improved 116th Street service, which serves all the same University Circle stops as the 48. So it will serve all those stops on Adelbert and that the 48 serves. So you may find you're advised to go there on the 116th Street, and then when it's time to go home, you look at your transit app and it says, well, given what time it is right now, you're better off on the 48. So it's a two-ride system for most of Shaker Heights, with the exception of the western neighborhood of Shaker Heights that I live in, where it's a one-seat ride.
And Joel, just to clarify for this person, could you explain what is the improved 48, what that means?
So 48 will have improved weekend frequency, and another thing that's improving on the 48 that is not necessarily going to be so much of interest to Shaker Heights residents, but the number 48 will be a consistent route where all trips will go to Marymount Hospital instead of just half the trips on weekdays. So there are some improvements, and the weekend frequency is better. So if you would like to, need to, or want to go in on the weekend, you're not dealing with that hourly service that you're dealing with today.
Thank you. We have a couple questions about the red line. So this question is from someone who said, I haven't always been taking the red line during the pandemic, but the red line time estimates were always an estimate. Is that still the case? So this goes back to the transit app question and the real-time information. If maybe this might be a question to dig into beyond our session today, which I can follow up with this person on, but any thoughts on that initially?
So I don't know. It could be that we are more often publishing just the scheduled time, but I will tell you that the red line is awfully consistent. And it's frequent. So if we had the real time and it wasn't working, and you don't have the real time and all you have is scheduled time, allow yourself an extra 2 minutes and you'll be okay.
Thank you. And another red line question. Before the pandemic, the red line peak frequency was every 10 minutes. And during the pandemic, it remains every 15 minutes now. Will it go back to every 10 minutes during peak times?
With next gen, on June 13th, it's gonna remain the same. Because we are still operating at roughly half ridership. And our priority is to try to provide as much 15-minute service as possible. So that's really our priority, is to upgrade things as much as possible to 15 minutes that are less frequent than 15. The more frequent service that was scheduled on the red line was to address overloads, and we're not experiencing overloads. So for now, we'll keep watching it, but for now we're leaving it at the 15. But remember, we're coordinating it with a lot of bus routes that also operate every 15, and we're trying to do as much time transfer and coordination and schedule coordination as possible. So it's actually working well for our riders that need to transfer between bus and rail, that we have so much 15-minute service and then 30. We're trying to get rid of 40-minute service that doesn't divide by 15. So we're trying to keep it consistent for transfers.
Thank you. You have to get more people on the red line for
Yeah.
the 10-minute frequency to come back during peak. Great. Jim, this one's for you. Will there be any marketing on the news to inform the community about the upcoming, and this person noted, awesome expansion?
Yeah, there'll be plenty of that, not just through your local stations, but also through our social media. And our social media is pretty extensive, of course, through Facebook. And we're also on Instagram, correct? And TV actually did some stories last week. And we're also doing an in-person outreach, which I think you'll find effective. And that will be next week. So you'll see people positioned at some of these frequently crossed or passed travel areas, eager to share the information with you.
Thank you. Is RTA considering adding shelters to more bus stops? Interesting question.
We're not, at this point, we're not changing our shelter policy. People ask for a shelter and we compare it to our policy that requires at least 50 boardings per day and requires that there be enough room somewhere to install a shelter. So those are, we're not changing that guideline. Now, what we anticipate will happen with the combination of recovery from pandemic plus next-gen system redesign, we're anticipating that more stops will have enough boardings to merit that 50 minimum per day boardings. And that will lead to the installation of more shelters. But anyone who has a particular shelter request where they think the ridership may merit it, that there may be 50 boardings per day, they can contact us. We'll do the research and follow up.
Excellent, thank you. There's a question here. Does UCI plan any changes to UC shuttle buses to coordinate with NextGen RTA? For example, more connections from East 105th Street to employers in University Circle. Great question. We are, so University Circle Incorporated works with other anchor institutions across the circle to coordinate those shuttle connections. And our major connections right now are from the Health Line and the Red Line, given the volume of passengers on those routes. Our plan is to stay lockstep with RTA on these changes and understand the volume on the number 9 route, for example, could change with its new alignment. And certainly want to make sure we understand the opportunities for those first mile, last mile connections, provided that there's a high enough ridership on those transit routes to make a shuttle connection. So maybe a slightly longer answer to, the short answer to that is we'll be watching ridership and understanding where those connections can be the most impactful. So here we go. Thank you for an informative presentation. Currently, RTA service on Lake Road through Rocky River to Bay Village is limited to rush hour service only. Will frequency improve as part of the June changes?
So if I recall correctly, you're referring to the 55B, and the 55B is really not changing with NextGen. There's no significant change to that route. But you know, we'll be monitoring ridership and see how the other countywide changes affect ridership. And it could be that it'll attract more people as a result of other countywide changes. And if so, we will make adjustments.
Great, thanks. We have questions from a couple of folks who have not ridden RTA before, possibly new riders. Jim, could you describe the role of the personalized transit assistant?
Well, basically, it's a standby position. Once the person gets their trip plan, as we mentioned, that's made up, comprised of information that they give us on their daily commute, and then basically almost taken from transit app. And we give them their free tickets to ride. We're in a position then to be open. They have a name and a number of a person like myself, a business card that's attached, and any questions they have throughout their travel, any reactions they have, negative, positive, anything in between, we want to know. We always constantly are striving to improve our services, the quality, the comfort, the reliability, the cleanliness, everything about transportation. And we want to meet the expectations of our consumer, of our rider. So that person is there to cover all those points.
Excellent. So basically there'd be a staff person at RTA who's familiar with the new rider's route and which bus or train they want to take, and would be on the ready or be on call if early in that person's experience they had questions about riding. They would have a phone number for someone they could contact.
Well, let me say this, that there's always the RTA answer line. Okay, those are the specialists that are going to get into the intricacies of routes, and that is the person that you should actually call for that. The personal transit assistant is the person that just coordinated your trial riding experience, and that's who to get back to. Just about the comfort and the convenience and what the ride is about, the experience. But when it gets to specifics, go to the RTA answer line.
Got it. Thank you. Very specific question here. We'll put our panelists to the test. Is there a bus that has a stop around the Brainerd Mayfield Road intersection that would go towards Hospice House on 185th Street?
So that would be a great question for the answer line, but I think I know the answer. The most obvious way to make that trip that comes to my mind, if you're at Mayfield and Brainerd, get on a number 9 that we just talked about. It's a good Mayfield Road bus, and its frequency is being upgraded. The frequency is being upgraded to half hour during the daytime, 7 days a week. And probably, depending on what your transit app says, because that would be better because it would know exactly when you're making this trip. But depending on when you're making the trip, the transit app might tell you to get off. I'll have to think about that. That's an interesting question. It might tell you, actually, it might tell you to stay on the Mayfield Road bus all the way to 105th Street. And after the bus has made the right turn, pick any shelter on 105th Street and get off the improved number 9 and get on the improved number 10, which is running every 15 minutes. And every single trip on the number 10 will take you all the way to the corner of East 185th and Lakeshore. Now, it may come up with something a little different depending on the exact time you're making the trip, but that one is a pretty reliable one, 7 days a week.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel. We have just less than a minute left, so I'm going to fly through this last question. Are the cleaning procedures going to be maintained post-pandemic on RTA buses and trains?
Yes.
Quick question, quick answer. Awesome. Well, I want to thank both panelists, Jim Frick and Joel Freilich, experts on RTA's resources and experts on RTA's service, Thank you very much for participating in our webinar today. It's been a great discussion. To all of our attendees, thank you very much for your participation, your great questions. We are going to bring our next session back on June 17th on the topic of biking. So we will have a league certified bike instructor talk about addressing barriers to urban cycling. And we hope you join us. Spread the word, and thank you again for your participation today and to both of our speakers.